Welcome, Nikhil, and welcome, Karthik, to the bookend of Cyber Future Dialogues CFF Live program. We are excited to have you as always. You have been the Purple Book Club community and the Armor Code community has been a very close partner for us and a part of our journey. So looking forward to get your perspectives and takeaways from 23. um, Look at where and your thoughts around the agenda that we have for the Davos program, and close out with your wish list for 2024 that we can make happen through this community and our collaboration. So first, I'll introduce, Nikhil. I'll let you give your perspective, do a quick introduction for Karthik, and then we'll switch around. Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Valmiki, for having us. And as you said, like we'll be missing in-person event over there. So my name is Nikhil Gupta, founder and CEO of Armor Code. And to your point here, what are the key trends, if you will? Definitely in today's world, if any conversation you are having, if you don't say AI, it's kind of not taken seriously, if you will. But definitely in cyber, AI is even more important. The other big thing, which has come up recently a lot is thanks to the executive order and bringing the software security and the software supply chain security along with and leading to software bill of material. And then the third key trend is data is the key for everything else. That's what we are protecting. And so, the data privacy are the three key trends that I believe are kind of like was the highlight in 2023, and I think so will be very important in 2024. But Karthik is here, as a ex CISO of a Fortune 10 company and very large company, so it will be great to hear his perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Nikhil, and I'm glad to meet you all over this video call. Appreciate having us. As Nikhil said, I am Karthik Swarnam, the Chief Security and Trust Officer at Armor Code. I've joined Nikhil in this pursuit to get the security right for all of the companies, especially as every company is moving down the path of a software-centric company. You could be in any industry for that matter, manufacturing, retail, hospitality, financial services, government agencies. The business and the economy kind of revolves around a lot of not only technology but more so in the software centric space, right? And what we saw, what I was more on the operators, chief security officer roles in the most part of 2023, and what we saw was definitely a driving factor was data privacy was a big element. Software security and how do we get security and how do we minimize the vulnerability is very huge. A lot of companies were experimenting with AI. So I think year of experimentation or exploration in 2023. Regulations are starting to take more formality and shape, right? Especially in the US with SEC regulations coming to fruition, as well as globally, all of the countries are trying to get down the path of regulations, both from a cyber perspective as well as from a privacy perspective, and also kind of defining a lot more obligations of how much and what you need to do to secure as an enterprise, as an agency. You need to be able to secure not only that, but also how you would follow the process, and you have that data to be able to go down the path, right? 2023, towards the end of 2023, was an interesting year. There was a huge increase in terms of ransomware and phishing and security incidents across companies. I think the earlier part of 2023, I think maybe a lot of institutions were okay and companies were getting to a comfortable state. By the time you get to a comfortable state, you're ready for buckling up and taking off again, right? That's the world of cyber and security that we live in, because surprises show up every morning. So 2023 was definitely an interesting year. Also, as a lot of exciting stuff, right? SBOM was a big one, bill of materials from a software perspective, CISA getting maturity in the US. So interesting year, which actually sets up nice and easy, nice and good for what we need to do as agencies, enterprises, and institutions in 2024.
Yeah, no, that's great. And as you mentioned, it was pleasant to and know that there was, for a change, no Christmas present. For starting from 2020 we had Log4j, and 2021 we had Shell for things and all. So that's great. And so Karthik, for you again being on this side, like how would you prepare, like now you have quote unquote come on the dark side, like you said, enough of me going through the problem, let me roll up my sleeves, and there is a big gap on risk centric approach and all those things. So what do you see over there, like with the challenges that you saw in 2023 and now coming on 2024 side? What would be your guidance to the people, is like what kind of approach you should do it, and how do you kind of tackle it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think 2024 and beyond, I think companies should come, any institution for that matter, right? Small or large, enterprises or government agencies, institutions, it doesn't matter where you play in. I think you need to take an holistic approach. And the program, from a cyber perspective, has to move more towards risk centric view, right? What I mean by that is company, institutions have to look at the entire portfolio that they have, and they have to start to look at forest from the trees. You cannot get down into the small nitty gritty stuff, right? So you need to be able to kind of collectively and holistically look at your entire estate, your entire environment, and understand what are those criticalities of those assets, understand what those assets are under pressure for. Either that could be vulnerabilities, or that could be any type of exposure, so attack surface management, to vulnerability management, to any coding inefficiencies that could be in there, right? So basically trying to create a holistic view, and you need to have that capability to be able to go look into it, and kind of then create a playbook for you to be able to say where you want to focus your energy and effort, right? Companies and institutions drowning in tens of hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities. Yes, they're all critical, but are they all critical in the context of your business, right? So having some kind of an internalized risk scoring, so that helps you prioritize and understand, yeah, great, I got to go and fix all these 10,000 things, but what are those 100 things out of those 10,000 things that needs immediate attention, right? So kind of taking a risk centric approach, taking a holistic approach of all your entire estate and environment, and then ability to put all of that in front of a table, and then work through your prioritization is going to be important, right? And you know what, you touched on AI, Nikhil. I mean, there is going to be code assistants and AI machines going to do machines, right? We're not very far from that, right? So if you really think of it, with automation and with all these capabilities, you don't want to ignore it, because it could easily get fed into the supply chain. So looking at it and having those guardrails in place matters, right? I think it all starts with visibility. What you cannot see, what you cannot measure, you can never manage. I mean, I'm a big believer of what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So can we measure, and not only measure, can we get visibility, and can we get some method to the madness on how we're going to dissect the data that we get, is important for companies to think through.
No, I think so. It makes sense, and visibility. And I think so. The other big thing is the automation, because even though you bring it down from, let's say, 10 million vulnerabilities to, let's say, 10,000 vulnerabilities, and with the advent of AI and everything else, the good thing is that AI, the way I look at it, is AI is like a nuclear energy, right? You can use it to generate the power plants, and you can use it to create a nuclear bomb, if you will. And unfortunately, in security, nobody knows it better than you, Karthik. It's like a cat and mouse game. The bad guys will always be two steps ahead, and they will be using AI. And then you need not only AI to fight that, but also you need automation. But to
Yeah.
your point, I think so. The challenge with automation becomes is, and you worked in large organizations like AT&Ts and TransUnions of the world. Back in the day, somebody told me, like, the best thing that has happened is automation, and then the worst thing that has happened is automation. Because what happens is, to your point, if machine is writing machine code, and you just go and modify that source, and like when it's going through the supply chain or going through all of these things in chain, and everything is automated, chances of people to able to identify those things will be very high. So
Right.
to miss that, it'll be very high. So So now you do talked about visibility. What else? Like, do you think correlation, automation? Like, what are the next step? Like, visibility will tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do, right? Like when it comes to our personal devices, personal phones, and you auto update so many things, right? Like you don't think twice; you just click the button to update your apps on your phones or your mobile devices, right? But when it comes into our day jobs, we always talk about what could go wrong and how and stuff, right? And I think people have to get comfortable with the fact that this is moving into that there's no difference between development or staging or production. You click the button and it needs to go and update it, right? To your point about automation, right? So auto remediation and guidance to that, and as long as the tools can put some guardrails in place and kind of orchestrating that. So how do you take all of the friction points out of the picture, right? Like if your institution follows a certain particular process, follows a particular workflow, how do you kind of eliminate those friction points so that things don't have to, if you look at it, half the battle is not in terms of effort, it's in the elapsed time and all the hooplas that we need to go through, all the bureaucracy and the steps that we need to navigate, right? How much can we leverage automation, right? So and how can you eliminate certain steps along the way, right? And how do you blur the lines between my asset, somebody else is measuring where you are, what your risks are, and somebody else is fixing it, right? Like how do you start to converge and blend that lines, right? And I think automation is going to auto remediation, guided remediation, auto fixing, all of that is going to be used for our advantage, I think.
Yeah, no, I think so. And you, it brings up a very good point. There's a people, process, and technology, right? And at the end of the day, technology is the means to the end. It's not the end. And if you look at any large institution that you had worked out and I have worked at, right? These are organization which is, 10, 20, 50, 100 years old. And then there are people who have been there for 20, 30 years, and over the period of time, like ours is a startup 3.5 years old, but now we are talking about tribal knowledge, and as we are growing, so if we are working in an institution which is 100 years old, people have been there, they build the processes, and their people have their own ways of thinking. To your point, how do you marry? So that's another important aspect here is like, yes, you have technology, whether it's generative AI or whatever is there, but it has to be married with the people and kind of simplifying the process. So that's where again the workflow automation and making sure that you get visibility, you do correlation, you do automated remediation and workflow. So now that makes a lot of sense here. So any last pearls of wisdom here, Karthik? Like if you were back in your shoes of being a CISO at a large operating company, what would you recommend to the audience here for like three things to look at from 2024 perspective or do differently what they've been doing?
Yeah, I would say first of all, one, make sure that you have a good way of understanding your entire estate or your environment, right? Make sure to count all your ducks, right? Because that's very, very essential. That's one. Two, create a metrics based program. Ability to communicate, upward, sideways to your teams is very, very essential. So understand, what are your clean, clear objectives, and what are you committing to get it done, right? That would be a second component. And the third thing is, I would say you're not alone. So obviously, instead of building your own capabilities, try to leverage it, right? When you have a tool, I mean, I'm a big believer of I don't need to go and reinvent certain capabilities. If there are tools and techniques and capabilities that are already available, go, buy it, borrow it, leverage it, right? So, you cannot, you cannot bring, like people say, you cannot bring a knife to a fight where there is machine guns. Okay, but there are a lot of capabilities and tools available, so I think leveraging the tools would be good, right? So that's the three things that I would say. Understand your estate, understand what are you up against, so that you get to understand your estate as well as your adversarial situation. Second thing is to be able to find a way to be able to measure and monitor, and what is going to drive. You talked about the people and the process aspect, like what is going to motivate for them to be able to get to practice cyber security hygiene across your company. And then the third piece is leverage the tools and capabilities that may be out in the marketplace, out there, and leverage those things and bring to bear those capabilities so that you're able to jumpstart what you want to get it done.
Great. No, thanks again. Thanks, Karthik, for your time here. And, we'll call back. All right. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
having us.
Of course, no, it's a pleasure, and great insights from both of you. Karthik, great to hear your validation of the work that this phenomenal team is doing at Armor Code and the community that's kind of inspiring that solution. Great to have you on the platform. Happy to share this forward with the rest of the broader community. Hopefully, we will meet each other in person very soon. But until then, I wish you well, and hope you are able to, hear the reflection of your voice with the community that is going to gather in person in Davos in January. And Nikhil and Karthik, I hope we can do this repeat and even in a grander scale in India as we partner together for the next one.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think we have
Awesome.
a great platform that that will kind of jumpstart if people want to be able to get to the solutioning sooner than later, right? So that's definitely, I'm
For
excited.
sure.
Yep.
How about the wish list
Okay.
of 2024, right? We want to see this happen, be adopted broadly, and really take this. Has already taken it by the storm, but the tornado is waiting to rip apart all cyber issues that we have.
Yep.
So adios, my
Yeah.
friends. We take care. Be well.
All right.
We'll
Yeah.
we'll
Thank
meet
you.